On a bright morning in May 2025, Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, strode through the sleek corridors of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. His footsteps echoed on the polished marble floor as he gripped his phone tightly, discussing the upcoming summit of African leaders scheduled for the following week. The chill from the air conditioning contrasted sharply with the intense heat he was used to in Ouagadougou. "Mr. President," said his diplomatic aide Marcel Ouedraogo, approaching with a gold envelope in hand. An invitation just came through from Fox News. America First tonight wants an exclusive interview about economic partnerships between Africa and the United States. Ibrahim paused and gazed out from the 47th floor panoramic window, observing the relentless buzz of Fifth Avenue below. Yellow taxis weaved between towering glass and steel skyscrapers, while pedestrians hurried on the sidewalks. The city never slept, and neither did the challenges awaiting him back home. "Who will be conducting the interview?" Ibrahim asked, adjusting his iconic military beret. "Kash Patel," Marcel replied, scanning his notes. "Former Trump administration official, now the show's host. He's known for his controversial views on African leaders." Ibrahim's brow furrowed. He was familiar with Patel's blunt style, a man who spoke sharply and often provocatively, yet he also recognized this as a pivotal chance to present Burkina Faso's new narrative, a nation rebuilding after years of turmoil. "Accept the invitation," Ibrahim said firmly. "It's time the world saw who we truly are." 3 days later, the Fox News studio in Manhattan buzzed with energy. LED lights bathed the set in blue and gold as technicians fine-tuned cameras and microphones. The scent of strong coffee mingled with the perfume of makeup artists prepping guests. Kash Patel, 45, with streaks of gray in his hair and piercing eyes, reviewed his notes in the dressing room. His questions were sharp, crafted to challenge Ibrahim. On his desk lay stacks of reports on Burkina Faso, touching on security concerns, economic struggles, and human rights. "Let's show these African dictators that they can't come here pretending to be saints," Patel muttered to his producer, Jake Morrison. "I have info that will leave him speechless." Across the hall, Ibrahim quietly prepared. Clad in a crisp navy blue suit, he kept his military beret, a symbol of his identity and journey. His aides briefed him on sensitive topics. "President, he may try to provoke you," Marcel warned. "Remember, we're here to highlight progress, not to get drawn into conflict." Ibrahim nodded. He had endured military coups, political unrest, and economic hardships. A TV host was not going to shake his resolve. At 8:45 p.m., the countdown commenced. Cameras aligned, lights brightened, and millions tuned in for what promised to be a tense exchange. "Good evening, America. I'm Kash Patel, and this is America First Tonight," the host announced, flashing his trademark smile. As the theme song played, "Tonight we have with us Ibrahim Traoré, the young president of Burkina Faso, here to discuss partnerships. But can we trust another African leader?" Patel's words sliced through the silence like a blade. Seated calmly in a red leather chair, Ibrahim's hands clenched briefly. The studio was silent except for the faint hum of cameras. "Thank you for having me, Mr. Patel," Ibrahim responded in fluent English, his voice steady but resolute. "I am here to talk about the future, not the prejudices of the past." Leaning forward, Patel's eyes sparkled with challenge. "Prejudices? Mr. Traoré, let's talk facts. Your country has one of the highest poverty rates globally, constant instability, and now you seek American investment. Why should we believe this time will be different?" The question hung heavily in the air. Ibrahim inhaled deeply, recalling the schools he'd built, the hospitals he'd renovated, the roads paved. Each project was a promise fulfilled, each advancement a step toward the future he envisioned. "Because, Mr. Patel, unlike many commentators, I don't just speak of change. I make it happen," Ibrahim declared, his voice growing firmer. "In 2 years, we've reduced child mortality by 30%, built over 200 schools, and created 50,000 jobs. These are facts, not opinions. The atmosphere thickened. Technicians exchanged nervous looks, sensing the tension mounting. Patel's smile shifted to a predatory grin, like a hunter eyeing prey. "Nice numbers, Mr. Traoré," Patel sneered, brandishing a document. "But here are reports from international organizations detailing human rights abuses under your government, arbitrary arrests, repression of journalists, summary executions. How do you explain that?" Ibrahim felt a surge of controlled fury. These baseless accusations were spread by those benefiting from his country's instability. His hands trembled, not from fear, but restrained indignation. "These lies are fabricated by those who don't want Africa to progress," he said, his voice darkening. "While some prefer to spread misinformation from their studios, I am on the battlefield fighting terrorists who threaten my people." Patel scoffed. "Terrorists? Or citizens opposing your authoritarian rule? Let's be honest, you seized power through a military coup. Does that make you a Democrat?" The studio grew heavy with silence. Ibrahim straightened in his chair. Eyes locked on Patel. The audience held their breath, sensing the confrontation escalating. "Mr. Patel," Ibrahim said deliberately, "there's a difference between journalism and cheap propaganda. You have crossed the line." At that moment, Patel made a mistake that would alter everything. Leaning back, his grin cocky, Patel spoke condescendingly. "You know, Ibrahim, the problem with you Africans is you always play the victim. You come here with your hands out, begging for help, but can't even manage your own tribes." The word tribes exploded through the studio like a gunshot. Ibrahim froze, narrowing his eyes. The audience gasped quietly. Marcel, watching from the wings, buried his face in his hands, knowing Patel had crossed an irreversible line. "Maybe it's time you stop pretending to govern and let serious countries handle real business," Patel continued, oblivious to the storm he'd unleashed. "After all, how many military coups have you had? It's like watching children playing at being adults." A deafening silence followed. Slowly rising, Ibrahim's 6'2" frame loomed under the studio lights. His hands trembled, not with fear, but with the controlled fury born from years of enduring colonial arrogance, masquerading as journalism. "Mr. Patel," Ibrahim said, voice low but charged with authority, "you've just shown exactly why America's losing influence globally. It's not due to our incapacity, but your ignorance." Realizing he'd gone too far, Patel tried to regain control. "Look, I didn't mean—" "No," Ibrahim cut in, stepping closer to Patel's desk. "You meant every word, and now you'll hear what a tribal African has to say." Standing mere feet from Patel, Ibrahim's presence dominated the studio. Cameras captured every nuance: wounded dignity, unshakable authority, and a deeper voice, the voice of a continent tired of being underestimated. "Want to talk about tribes, Mr. Patel?" Ibrahim began, voice clear through the mics. "I'll tell you about mine. Engineers building bridges over rivers you don't even know exist. Doctors saving lives with equipment you'd discard. Teachers instructing children in 4 languages while you can barely speak English without a teleprompter." The audience was spellbound. Patel tried to interrupt, but Ibrahim pressed on, passion rising. "My tribe produced Wangari Maathai, who planted 30 million trees while you cut down forests. It produced Nelson Mandela, who taught forgiveness to a world thirsting for revenge. Scientists who discovered cures for diseases while you made weapons." Ibrahim moved closer to Patel, eyes locked. "And the difference between you and me, Mr. Patel. When I speak of my people, it's with love and pride. When you speak of yours, it's with fear and hatred." The studio fell completely silent. Even the technicians ceased movement, absorbed by the moment's intensity. For the first time on television, Patel was speechless. "Want numbers, Mr. Patel?" Ibrahim's voice turned professorial. "In 2 years, we've increased agricultural output by 40%, reduced import dependence by 25%, created the largest solar reserve in West Africa. Meanwhile, what problems have you solved besides creating TV controversy? Then, Ibrahim did the unexpected. He smiled, not mockingly, but with genuine pity. "Do you know what saddens me most, Mr. Patel?" Ibrahim's voice softened, touching even skeptical viewers. "It's that you waste a platform that could educate millions to spread ignorance and division." Patel finally found his voice, attempting to regain control. "Look, Ibrahim, you're being too emotional. I was just asking legitimate questions. That's when it happened." Driven by years of frustration with Western arrogance, Ibrahim stepped decisively toward Patel. It was no physical assault, but a commanding display of authority echoing centuries of African dignity being restored. "Emotional?" Ibrahim repeated, voice rising. "Am I emotional when someone insults my people, my history, my struggle? Then, yes, Mr. Patel, I am emotionally attached to dignity." And then came what would be known as the diplomatic slap of the 21st. Ibrahim didn't touch Patel physically. The slap was metaphorical, but its force was thunderous. He slammed his open hand onto Patel's desk, the sound echoing through the studio like thunder. "Enough," Ibrahim thundered. "Enough. Disrespect, ignorance, and treating African leaders like beggars when we are equal partners." The impact was immediate and electric. Patel recoiled, shocked. The audience murmured loudly. In production, Jake Morrison shouted confused instructions, unsure whether to cut to commercial or continue broadcasting this historic moment. But Ibrahim wasn't done. Facing the cameras, he spoke directly to millions. "America, you deserve better journalism. Anchors who educate, not humiliate, and we Africans deserve respect, not condescension." Minutes after, the Fox News studio descended into controlled chaos. Morrison rushed on stage, frantically signaling to stop filming, but it was too late. The moment had been broadcast live to millions across America, and thanks to social media, was already going viral worldwide. Ibrahim took deep breaths, regaining composure. His hands trembled, not from fear, but adrenaline from finally speaking truth. Marcel hurried backstage, worried about diplomatic fallout. "President, we need to leave now," Marcel whispered urgently in French, guiding Ibrahim toward the exit. Patel, still stunned, called out, "Security, security," as if Ibrahim posed a threat. But everyone knew the only thing hurt was Patel's ego and credibility. "No need, Mr. Patel," Ibrahim said calmly, adjusting his suit. "I came in peace. I leave in peace, but I take with me the certainty that I have exposed your true colors." A week later, the Southern District Court of New York was packed. Journalists from around the globe crowded the neoclassical courthouse steps, cameras capturing every move in this landmark legal battle. Ibrahim Traoré arrived in a black limousine, wearing a sharp navy suit and his signature military beret. He was greeted by a crowd of supporters, mostly African immigrants, chanting slogans like "African dignity" and "Respect our leaders." Lasham. Across the square, Kash Patel arrived in a plain yellow taxi, avoiding cameras and looking uneasy. Inside the courtroom, Judge Margaret Thompson, a 58-year-old black woman known for fairness and rigor, presided. The air was thick with tension as both sides presented opening arguments. Sarah Whitman stood confidently. "Your Honor, this was not journalism, but racism and xenophobia masquerading as an interview." Patel used his platform to perpetuate harmful colonial stereotypes, irreparably harming my client and the people of Burkina Faso. Patel's lawyer, Tony Ritchie, nervously defended. "My client is a respected journalist asking legitimate public policy questions." Judge Thompson interrupted, flipping through records. "Mr. Ritchie, I have reviewed the full recording. Your client referred to the president and the African peoples with language unbefitting serious journalism. The decisive moment came when the judge ruled on Ibrahim's injunction request. Given the gravity of the statements, their international reach, and potential harm, I grant a preliminary injunction. The defendant is barred from further public comments on the plaintiff until final judgment. Her closing words reverberated globally. This case is more than a personal dispute. It's a reckoning on how public figures use platforms to perpetuate or fight systemic bias. After leaving court, Ibrahim spoke to reporters. "This isn't just my case. It's the case of every African leader ridiculed, every African child taught to feel shame for their heritage, every person who believes dignity has no color or continent." 6 months later, the case settled out of court. Kash Patel paid $90 million, the largest defamation settlement involving an international political figure in American history. More importantly, he issued a prime-time public apology. Ibrahim donated the entire sum to an educational fund, financing exchanges between American and African universities, transforming confrontation into a bridge for mutual understanding. The story of Ibrahim Traoré and Kash Patel became a landmark, not just legally but culturally. It signaled the end of impunity for racist, xenophobic commentary and affirmed that African dignity is neither for sale nor negotiation. In Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's capital, a statue was erected, not celebrating confrontation, but courage to defend dignity. The inscription simply reads, "When truth meets courage, justice is born."